Welcome back to In the Kitchen. Today we're back in the kitchen with the head chefs over at funnelchef.io. So, if you haven't met us already, well, over at Funnel Chef, we work with coaches, consultants, and agency owners to implement proven recipes for success into their business so that they can attract more clients and generate more revenue and profits, all while avoiding that dreaded guesswork. And so this is taking proven systems and processes that have worked, not only in our business, but also for our clients and even our competitors throughout the years. And we've boiled them down to simple but specific, detail oriented recipes that you can implement into your business. So, you don't have to be a tech guru, a smooth talking salesperson, or just a genius in general to have success, right? Just like a good recipe, as long as you have the right ingredients and follow the process step by step, you can also get great results. So, guys, I know I feel like we've discussed this more than once, and definitely on different occasions in different contexts. But something that honestly we're always looking at, and this is, I guess at the end of the day, the reason why we do this podcast, it's to help out entrepreneurs, whether it's someone who's I guess like a solopreneur who's just getting started, or maybe it's someone who's been in business for a while, and they're just trying to kind of continually grow, or it's someone who they're basically they're trying to get to seven figures or eight, right? So it's someone who's already had a ton of success. They're just trying to keep making incremental improvements to their business essentially. But something that I think this is maybe even more important for like a solopreneur, newer business owners, but it's about controlling the narrative, right? And so this isn't just specific to marketing or sales, but in this context, this is kind of where we're looking at it. And something that I've seen, and this is happens to a ton of people, and I feel like it gets overlooked, and it's actually easy to fix. But you'd be surprised at how many people they book someone on their calendar, right? And this is, I guess, once they're in the sales process, they're booked on their calendar, and then there's really not much communication that happens between once they book and when they're actually scheduled to meet. And if you're someone, let's say you've booked this person 2 weeks out, that's 2 weeks. That's a lot of time, right? So you can't control, their perception of what they're thinking, or even if they remember you, right? Who knows? 2 weeks down the line, you've probably seen it. Someone books in your calendar, day comes, maybe even the day before, they either cancel or reschedule because they completely forgot about you, right? And it's going to happen sometimes just in general, right? Even if you send someone 5 reminders over that 2 weeks, just stuff happens. But something that we're really big on, and this is we did this with other clients as well, but we especially do it in our business, is that we like to try to control the narrative, especially in the sales process, right? So if someone books in your calendar, we want to make sure to be able to send them enough information directly from us so we can help frame the conversation, and then also give them some bit of education before the call, because you want to make that call as productive as possible. And you also, again, you want to frame the call, make sure that when you connect with that person, they actually know who you are and what you do, because you're always going to end up speaking to some people who you maybe shouldn't speak to. But especially if you have salespeople on the team, no one likes having 6 scheduled calls, 3 no-shows, 2 of them shouldn't be there, and then only one good person out of 6, right? So you just spent maybe 6 hours if they're 45-hour blocks, no shows and unqualified people. So, Mikey, what are your thoughts on that?
I think to a degree, a new entrepreneur is going to have those 6 calls to get the one qualified person. When you're testing a concept, right, or trying to prove an offer, you want to go to market and get in front of people as fast as humanly possible. And you're going to skip that step of building out all of the assets to develop that top of mind authority so that they think of you, and to frankly qualify them after they've booked before they get to that call, right? Or further on before in the sales process, if possible. That being said, for those that aren't testing an offer that have something proven, there's no reason that they shouldn't have a series of assets that are explaining who they are, what they do, who they do it for, etc., well ahead of that call, preferably before the initial booking, right? But especially between between that initial booking and the time they get on the phone, like you were saying, you need to be in front of them 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, depending on how far out it is, so that you're maintaining that top of mind authority. And so that when you get there, they don't go, hold on, so what was this about again? What company are you from? I'm sorry, I forgot all about this. Can we reschedule this to next week? Can you send me over some literature? That's my favorite. Some literature. Like, who's got literature these days? What does that even mean? Do you want a book? But in any case, I agree with you 100%. As a general rule of thumb, I mean, we don't book appointments out more than 3 days if we can help it, especially not on the first one. The second one or follow-up, what? 3 days to a week max? What would you say, Chris? Scott?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a time frame, something like that, right? Because again, like you mentioned, someone shows up and they're like, "Who are you again? What company are you with?" Right? That's kind of a almost. I mean, that's a sign right there that you're not about to close that person, right? They're not going to become a client, not today at least. If they don't even remember who you are, and that's actually, I was speaking to someone yesterday that owns a marketing agency, and they really don't have a ton of. They run a ton of ads, obviously, like they run ads for their clients. They also run a ton of ads for themselves, but they really don't have much automation on the back end in terms of confirmations and reminders and notifications, right, from people scheduling the calendar. And the person who I spoke with there, he told me, something that he does that's really good because he's at least doing something, is that the day before he always sends everyone a customized video that he records, going to them, just saying, "Hey, excited to speak with you." And if he does have their business pulled up, he'll talk about their business, show them that he's looking at it before the call. But what he also mentioned, he's like, "Man, it's just kind of how it is, right? You're going to have no shows." And of course you are. But what he had said is, he's like, "Well, if we show up, they're not there." He's like, "Man, I've got 4 different phone numbers." He's like, "And I'm going to blow them up from all of them." He's like, "And I'll at least get a response." He's like, "If they're not going to show up, they're going to at least tell me like, 'Hey, man, I'm not here.'" He's like, I want to at least get a response. I don't want someone to just no show, because I don't think they really have a great sequence built out for no shows to get them back in the process. But even at that point, right, if you were to call someone 10 times, maybe not even 10, right? Say if you call someone 3 times, they show up at the meeting 10 minutes late, like, you're not going to close that person, right? More than likely, they're not going to become a client, because they didn't really prioritize the meeting. But that also goes into, they may have not even remembered you.
So as a general rule of thumb, your client consumer has to consume 7 to 9 hours of content or exposure to your brand, your product, your solution, to develop that know, like, and trust level, at least for high tickets. So $10,000 and over, they have to be with you for 9 hours before they're going to be ready to close. So how do you chip away at that time without chipping away at your life? You obviously can't spend 9 hours on the phone with somebody, or I hope you can't, right? Hope you're doing too much business for that. So where do you get it? You get it through videos, you get it through messaging, et cetera. On the point of the 4 phone numbers, I have personally found that it is more effective to get content in front of your target audience so that they will self-sort and screen themselves out ahead of time, versus trying to get back in front of them with 9 numbers or however many, because they're not sure who you are and what you're doing and the value that you provide. A lot of new entrepreneurs, and I'm not saying this is the case with the person that you're speaking to yesterday, but a lot of new entrepreneurs, they get kind of desperate for business, and they forget that every person that they take on as a client that is not their archetypical client, that is outside of their normal process, is going to waste the time that they could be using to capture 2 or 3 more of their archetypical clients. You may waste a little bit more money on ad spend or on, marketing dollars generally, but you save tons more on the back end and efficiencies and deliverability. So yeah, that's one of the reasons we always tell people to refer back to their meal plan, right? go back to the one source of truth, make sure that you're speaking to the right person, and you're telling everybody else to go away, frankly, in a really nice and informative manner. Yeah, don't take the wrong clients. They're more expensive than you might think.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, something that we need to keep in mind is that you're always going to have people that no show, right, in your sales process. That's kind of just how it happens, right? If you've done sales, if you've spoken to enough people or had enough people booked on your calendar, you've seen no shows. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's people that are booking on your calendar, right? Some people no show, and it's not even on purpose, right? Life happens, things happen, they just can't make it, and they don't know you. Not to say in a bad way, but you're probably not at the top of their list, right? Hope you're gonna have people who are respectful. They can't make it; they'll at least text you. But we can't. Um, I don't want to say it's like being overconfident, but you need to realize that not everyone, unless you're just like omnipresent with your marketing and have a huge following and community, most of the people that you speak to for that at first initial time, they really don't know anything about you other than what they've seen through your marketing and then what you sent them before the call. So, like you mentioned with that 9 hours, right? And maybe it's not that specific number, but the conversation starts with your marketing, where they opt in at, right? Whether it's like a video ad that they see, that's all they know about you, right? So your branding is really important, and so consistency there as well. Because I mean, think about it as if you're dating someone, right? And let's say you're using like Tinder or Hinge, some dating app, right? Whatever they see, whether it's a photo, your bio, anything about you, that's all they know about you. They don't know anything else. They don't know your friends. They haven't heard from anyone at all. They haven't even heard from you. They just see what's advertised. They opt in, and then let's say before you actually meet up with them for the first time, you go grab dinner or some drinks, you start saying things that don't line up with what they initially saw. Well, that same thing can happen in your business too, right? If someone opts into your marketing, and then that follow up, that nurture, that indoctrination process and sequencing that happens before the call, if they're confused before going in the call and they're like, wait, I don't really think I know who this person is, it's probably not going to go well. I mean, maybe it still can, right? If you've got a good salesperson or you as the owner selling to them, you're really good at communicating with them and helping them. But, why make it harder on yourself, right? You can use pre-recorded pieces, right? Videos. If you want to send them, like an ebook, if you want to send them something before anything at all,
Richard?
right? Yeah, literature, right? You can send them some literature. You don't have to write them a book personally. You can if you want, really. But I think it's, a lot of people, they make it a little bit harder on themselves than what they need to.
100%.
And we've got, man, there's so many types of tools you have access to now. When it comes to like email and text, things like that, whether it's just reminders, confirmations, whatever it is, can't show up all prepared. So you have to be able to control what you can control, which is the information that they see before they actually speak with you.
Yeah, Scotty, you're going to say something?
I was gonna say I would like parrot that of what you guys were mentioning, like especially if you're doing organic, you're new to the like running ads, your business is growing, so you don't have like market share. Um, it is truly like what are you putting in front of them even prior to them getting like a face to face or a phone call from you. And that's why like I know with like stuff we do, our automation really helps us get interactive videos or value ads like ebooks or training material to someone prior to ever having that live conversation via Zoom or a phone call. So even by the time that we're able to speak to somebody, like what you mentioned earlier, Mikey, they've self-sorted in a manner where if they just no show us and they've gone through the material, it's probably for the best, to be honest with you, is they're not ready to purchase at that juncture. But if someone's been through the material, I mean, that also gives us a great like springboard into the conversation. Meaning like what you mentioned, if within the information you're sending out, you're basically having them sort themselves out of what, like for instance, what stage of business you're in. Are you startup? Are you scaling? Are you trying to build a team at this juncture? What is it you're trying to do? Well, material that goes out that allows that person to basically tell us within that first phone conversation of like where they identify. So then that can gear our conversation, be a lot more impactful and not so like shotgun approach. Because no one wants to carry Mikey Tybor's time. He's on attorney rate. So that's like, I don't know, $1,000 an hour. So, but it is true. Like if you can get them value adds prior to even your call with them, then your chances of them showing up, self-selecting, and being involved in that conversation is so much higher for a possible close.
Teeing off on something that you just said on the self-sort piece and the way that you can go about doing it. It is so easy today to send videos, send messages, send an infographic. These things don't take long to build. It doesn't take rocket science. If you can't do it yourself, there's 1,000 contractors on Fiverr that are super qualified. We can give you templates that allow you to do them in minutes. And most systems will have some level of templates set up pre-existing for you to use with them. That you have no excuse as a business owner to not be educating your prospect and making sure that they're your target audience to guard your time. When I first started in business in a sales job, a marketing job, they basically handed you a phone book and said, hey, you need to also take your own personal black book and make, sales happen. That was just using up my time for their benefit. Well, you, Mr. and Mrs. Entrepreneur, you don't want to use up your own time for your benefit. Use it intelligently, use it smartly, get in front of the right people and give them value. But that is one thing I will say, just because it's not your target audience or not your perfect client, you still want to give them value and try and push them in the right direction. Because if you push them in the right direction and they know what you're about, then they'll send you back clients that are the right people. So.
Yeah. And so I think this kind of flows directly into another question, which is, and this is, again, this isn't necessarily for like a solopreneur. This isn't for, someone who's already doing 7-8 figures. This is for everyone. But this is especially important for someone who's just getting started because, maybe they're trying to figure out like what tools and what software, like what systems do they actually need to take care of everything that they need to do. And I think some people overcomplicate it. You don't want to end up with a spreadsheet that's just full of different logins because that's, it's easy for it to happen, right? It's kind of like a snowball effect. You sign up for 3 different types of software and then you're like, okay, well, I think I actually need this also. And then that, and then it, months later, it just keeps building up. But, that makes, you're trying to connect all of them together. You can use Zapier, but, obviously that's
Who knows how to use Zapier?
Right. Yeah. You're just basically trying to duct tape things together, man. That's what Zapier is. It's duct tape, and it's really good duct tape, right? But at the same time, if you don't have to use the duct tape, then it's going to be even stronger, right?
Is it Zapier or Zapier? I know they're called Zaps, but I always called it Zapier. Is that wrong?
I've heard people say Zapier. I've also heard Zapier, and I think I've actually seen ads from them. The last one I heard said Zapier, so I was like, I'm gonna
okay.
So that was one of your from the horse's mouth, right?
Zapier, right here.
Yeah,
Chris Terry, ladies and gentlemen, definitely not. Or Galifianakis lookalike over there in the right-hand corner.
But also, I mean, for when it comes to onboarding new employees, right? Do you really want to make someone like 6, 7, 8 different logins just to get started working with you? That's pretty. It's pretty hectic, and it makes, again, whenever you have someone starting to work with you, especially like, let's just say it's a salesperson. Oh, there it is. He's got a bag.
He's got the clutch from.
Got my Doughboy backpack, baby.
But to your point, Chris, so when we did commercial finance brokerage, we used Zapier. We used Zendesk. So you'll like this. We use Zendesk, MailChimp, Zapier, Zoom. We were one of the first users of Zoom. We used Call Tools, Drop Cowboy, Google Mail, GMass, and it was all tied together through Zapier. And one little mistake where somebody turned off one little zap and everything else stopped working. And it would take us a freaking week to figure out where the problem was, right? Like, well, why is this not communicating with that anymore? And this was before single sign-on from Microsoft and Google, which is great technology. But even that's relatively hard to implement. Especially most small business owners, most consultants, they're technicians. They know one area of expertise, right? So you're asking them to be successful, they got to throw 39 other hats on. I counted it one time. It was like 33 different specialized positions in a sales organization, which is essentially what a brokerage is. 33. So, for a real consultant, a coach that's teaching somebody, an agency owner that's building it out for them, you got to figure there's 34, 35 there. There's a couple extra added layers of things that you're supposed to be great at. So, yeah, less is more. That is 100% the truth here and pretty much everywhere else. Well, not quite everywhere.
Yeah, well, maybe not everywhere, right? But it's definitely, it definitely makes sense. I mean, you need to have access to these tools, right, to keep up, and then obviously to make your life easier as well, but you also don't want to overcomplicate it. Most of the clients we work with, we actually have our own Frankenstein, if you want to call it that, like software that we've built, and it's a culmination of other types of software that we've used in the past, and we're just like, hey, let's just make it really easy for ourselves, which in turn is like, hey, let's also just make it easier for clients we work with. But it knocks out your CRM, your emails, your text sequences, the email text marketing, funnel builder. You can build courses inside of it. You can actually do like communities now, similar like a Facebook group. You can build out your webinars in there. You can actually run like your Facebook ads in there. You can track your metrics from your Facebook and Google ads. You can cross post on all your social media accounts. So it does like everything. And not everyone maybe needs all of that or even wants all of that, right? But sometimes it's nice to have access to it.
Don't forget the programmatic review plugin.
Yeah, right.
That thing's money. Talk about being everywhere at once. Being everywhere at once with positive ratings, that's what you really want. So,
yeah, no, and it's again, any tool, man, even if you go back and look at the hammer, right? It's just there to make a job easier. It's just there to make something easier, right? So before, people were just punching a nail into a piece of wood, which worked, right? But maybe you ended up with some broken knuckles and some holes in your hand, right? You don't want blood all over your walls just to nail something in. But then the hammer probably started out with just a rock, but then someone duct taped a stick to it with a Zapier. And
everyone with Zapier. Everyone, yeah. He's not a historian, but he is an expert marketer. Okay, and I will say, a fantastic businessman. So, historian, not so much though. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't think that's how the hammer was invented. But
rock to bronze age, age to addition of wood.
Yeah, but the point still stands though, right? It's any tool. It's just there to make a job easier. So any sort of software, if you're a business owner, things you have access to, man, if it's not making your job easier, it's probably not the right tool for you. Or I wouldn't say it's not a good tool, but it's maybe not the right tool for you. So, that's like certain things that are so powerful, man, like Salesforce. You can do so much Salesforce, but you probably can't do it yourself, right? There's literal people that go through Salesforce's training to get certified, and then you have to pay them like thousands of dollars, right, to build it out for you. And maybe you need it. Most people don't, though.
Salesforce overkill. I mean, it's a great, hold on, let me back up 2 steps. It is one of the greatest systems if you are a Fortune 5. So a friend of mine works with Bain & Company. Bain & Company is one of the top 4 consulting firms. They've made investments too. In any case, he works with them, and he got basically drafted into working with them after cleaning up a series of medical billing companies that he was working with. And he'd been building all the software for them, for the medical billing companies. So that pulled all the data, ran the codes, sent back all the invoices, et cetera. And he started, he was working on a project, and the guy goes, what are you doing that for? The guy from Bain, the director that was running the project, he goes, what the hell are you doing that for? He goes, we save millions of dollars a year by us doing this in-house. He goes, no. We talk about billion-dollar problems now. You do this in Salesforce. And it makes sense for that use case where you can throw the certified administrators at it, people that know what they're doing and how to build it and make it perfect. It doesn't work for everybody else. It just doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think at that point, it's, you may be attracted by the branding, right? Because you see Salesforce everywhere, and they have the little, what are they, like little clay people?
It's
not
a
clay,
cloud.
the little furries, the little avatars, that got on the raccoon suit or the bear suit. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, not everyone needs Salesforce. Most people don't.
Well, it's for specialized use cases where that fits.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'll give an example. So, if you're taking in, so in a commercial finance brokerage, you take in bank statements, you take in an application, you take in some other financial documents. You need an OCR reader that analyzes those documents and that can plug that in, captured accordingly in a flat file, convert it into a non-flat file. So for anybody that doesn't know, a flat file is just text. There's no delineation as to where it should be, and sort it accordingly. That type of technology, super specialized, you can build onto the Salesforce platform, and that's why it's developed so far. And it's great for specialized usages like that. But for the vast majority of business owners, the vast majority of businesses, 99%, you don't need any of that. What you need is a solution where you can send text messages, send a call from, send emails, retarget and otherwise, where you can produce some content and get it in front of them, the right content, host it, see if they see it, and track your sales through the pipeline, and then track your operation through fulfillment. Am I missing something? Do you guys think something else that we need? I mean, depending on how you're marketing?
No, I wouldn't say there's much delineation there. Like getting uber custom and like highly customizable adds facets to your business and expenses that most people do not need. Like you mentioned, as long as you can handle the sales portion, like the marketing into sales, and being able to stay on top of leads and where they're at and how to delineate them, and then being able to transition that prospect to a client, like you mentioned, through some form of fulfillment, and just being able to project manage that if that's even in your business model. And to do that, sure, if you do it at scale, you want some automations and some tools and systems that might be able to make it easier. But honestly, at the end of the day, you just need a phone, an email, and maybe a spreadsheet.
Well, hold on. That sounds truly miserable. I've done a lot. I think everyone here today has used the spreadsheet method for automating for tracking certain things. And yes, it works. I'm not going to knock it. Those of you that are using spreadsheets, God bless you. That's not me. I would prefer my spreadsheet to automate an email. I would prefer my column to automate a text message. I would prefer to spend my time delivering value to people so that they will then value me and deliver me clients for my services in the future. So yeah, technically all you need is a fucking phone and an email, excuse my French, and a spreadsheet. And actually, screw the spreadsheet. Let's just go to some graph paper, right? Why don't we really go back in time? But no, in today's world, you do need to get in front of them. You do need to provide them value, and you are going to deal with a certain amount of no-shows, no matter how you look at it. So you have to do volume. If you're going to find your right client, which it's like your North Star, you got to stick to it.
Yeah, and something is as well, and this is like you mentioned, right? Yeah, all of our clients, the first thing we do with anyone is mapping out their actual meal plan, right? And if anyone listening to this and they're not sure what we mean by that, I mean, it essentially is like what Mikey just said. It's, identifying your North Star and then staying true following that. And that is, it's looking at, your marketing, your sales, everything with your business, but you do want to have that clearly defined plan, as well as who are you actually helping. And then once we have all that in place, we're really big fans of, saving time. And part of that includes automating what can be automated, right? So, you can do every single thing manually. Maybe you can now. If you're a solopreneur, you talk to 5 people a week, right? You can probably do it that way. But, is it the best way, right? Because where you're putting your time, that's going to affect, maybe not even only your business, but your life as well. So, we see a ton of people who are just wasting time every single day, by doing things that, maybe they actually don't even have to do. And some people, when they hear the word like automations, they just have this, I don't even know if it's just like a, some sort of the way they just perceive it, they think it's this rigid, like a square robot that you see, like, oh, we don't want to automate anything. We care about our clients. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean that you don't care about your clients, but there's a ton of things in your business, like going back to how we mentioned with controlling the narrative, right? And part of that's your branding as well, but staying consistent, whether that's staying consistent in terms of your messaging or staying consistent in terms of staying in front of someone, you can automate that, right? You can use AI tools to help you write it. But again, we're just talking about automating it. So you could still write out all the messages, all the sequences, but make your life easier. And, you don't have to remember to send this text to this dude 2 months from now when he asks you to follow up with him, right? You can just schedule it.
To go back to your reference earlier, how much better do you think your Tinder or Bumble or whatever profile would be if you could just have a series of references underneath? So here, I'm not going to tell you how great I am, but check out GG246. She'll tell you. That would work out fantastic, right? Going back to the automation piece, when you work with a client, especially if you're working over Zoom, which I hope a lot of people are these days, it saves you time, right? Saves your client time, makes everything more efficient. You have that recording. It tells them right in the front, hey, this is being recorded. They say great things to you about you. Let them say it to everybody else. That's an easy thing to do. It's a simple little tweak. But so many people aren't doing it. It blows my mind.
Yeah, and that's, 100%. Someone's saying good things about you, let them, share that with other people.
Yeah, I was going to add to it, like what you mentioned about automation. A lot of times you can like misconstrue what that kind of means for you. You think it's got to be like an AI bot or it's got to be something that's super technical. But like I was working with a client this morning, and one of the things we were actually going through for her business, where they're an insurance, so they got about 5,000 plus policies at any given time just for her office. So, her thing was like, she's old school, but she was like, hey, I keep getting asked the same questions over and over and over, and it just kills my time. And a lot of it's about stuff she has no control over, like rates in the industry, how like outside economic factors, play on the pricing that she has. So I was like, why don't you just do like newsletters? Send out a monthly email or to all of your clients or prospects. So you're, educating your market, right? Giving them some type of education. So that way you can hopefully rebuttal handle en masse. So you're not having to field phone call after phone call answering the same 3 to 5 questions. Like that's technically automation because you're getting in front of a large audience to like share a message. And even on the front side of it, we've deployed, what's the one thing insurance agents want to sell hard is life insurance. But most people have no idea about life insurance. So we automated a video that they send out a quote and then a secondary quote with a educational video behind it. So then it opens the door for that conversation of a little cartoon that goes out to a client. So when she gets back in front of them, she's like, "What do you think of the education, the video?" So again, they're automating the education portion of like a possible policy. So it in turn increases their close rate. So again, automation doesn't have to be this 100 sequence Zapier account or 500 emails and an AI bot taking over. It just, how do you get a message in mass or your brand in mass to enough people to where you're not having to manually click?
For sure.
Yeah, and that goes back to like we were discussing earlier, right? Controlling the narrative. Because what's going to happen, especially I can imagine this in like life insurance, right? Selling any insurance is that, you're not the only person who's selling insurance, right? And a lot of people, a lot of companies are actually selling the exact same insurance. Right? They're just like basically white labeling it, right, under their name. But so, controlling the narrative, it also, controls. They're getting their education from you, so they're going to view you as that expert because anyone who really wants to get information about life insurance, it may not be accurate, but if you go on Google and type in life insurance, what is life insurance? You're going to get so many results. And, wouldn't it be better if that person gets the information from you? So if you already have them in your system, you've already spoken to them, don't just leave them out, in the cold where they're going to start foraging for answers, outside, right? You can send that to them, send them a care package, a newsletter, right? And especially a video like that where it's education, because if they're getting the information from you, they're going to view you as someone who's knowledgeable on it, which means they're probably going to value your time, but also like what you tell them, like your opinion, a little bit more as well.
So I was trying to explain what the Pareto principle is to a client the other day. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar. You ever heard of the golden? I think it's the golden, not golden rule. It's not the golden equation either, but the Pareto principle. Here's how it works. Whatever the number one most popular thing is going to be twice as common as the number two most popular thing. The number three most popular thing is going to be a third as common as the second most popular thing. The fourth most popular thing is going to be 25% as common as the third, right? If you remember that Daffy Duck Goes to Mathematics and Geometry Land back in the day, they talked all about it. Okay, it's how seashells are made. Well, because of that rule, it actually applies everywhere in nature and a lot in human psychology. That's why you only need 11 to 13 frequently asked questions on average to cover 95 to 97% of what people are going to ask. Their objections, same deal. 11 to 13 will cover the vast majority. And then once you get past that majority, then you elevate or escalate the problem. And there'll be a new set of 13. But guess what? 95% of 95%, or the 5% remaining, means you're pretty much done. Now you got one little outlier. It's super easy to train someone. I say super easy. People are hard-headed, but super easy to train people on 11 to 13 questions. It's even easier to train an AI bot on it. Talk about automations. That's where it kind of fits in. And I don't know who here's really, manage big crowds. Let me tell you a little secret. It sucks. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, one way to think about automations, and maybe this is for someone who, really hasn't kind of looked into it or thought about using it as much, is that, whenever you hire someone, you're hiring them in your company to take over like a role or a task that someone else had. And in turn, it's going to free up some time from that other person. Well, your automation is kind of the same way, right? Do you really like what Scott was just mentioning with sending a newsletter out? Do you or someone else on your team, do you need to sit there and send that email to every single person? No, you just put them in a list, type up the email, send it out. That could be considered a form of automation, right? You're sending out emails to a group at one time. But also like the reminding the sequences, whenever we have someone who schedules a call with anyone on our team, we want to make sure that they get some education, some information before the call, because we also, you want to frame the call as well. You want to ask them questions. So when they go into the call, they're already thinking about something that you want them to think about, right? And you can automate that. You don't have to send them a personalized video for it to still have a good impact. You can record a video, kind of like what, Mikey was just mentioning, where a ton of frequently asked questions. You know what everyone's asking. Once you've spoken to enough people, you probably know what a lot of people are thinking heading into the call as well. You can either wait, and see what happens on the call, or you can actually go ahead and put that in front of them and then frame the call. So when they connect with whoever it is they're going to speak with, whether it's you, someone else on their team, number one, you'll probably increase your show rate, or at least you'll increase your show rate of qualified people, right? Some people may disqualify themselves, which, that doesn't mean you can't still call them and talk to them, but if they disqualify themselves, maybe they just saved you some time. But also the right people, you can go ahead and kind of assert, a little bit of expert knowledge into the conversation before you even speak with them. And again, you can automate that. You can automate those reminders. You can do all
Chris,
things.
Scott, quick question. Reminders and basic sales assist, which for all of you that don't know, a sales assist email cadence is one that goes in line with your sales process. A re-engage email sequence is one that comes after your sales process for missed, opportunities, drop off prospects, whatever. A long form brand building or value building email sequence usually goes on top of both. In any case, how long would it, on average, do you think it takes you to build a confirmation sequence and a sales assist sequence with a client, if they're being responsive?
It's not that long, man. Most people, and this is especially with like a solopreneur, let's say if you've been doing the sales, all the fulfillment, everything for your business, some people are a little hesitant when it comes to inserting other salespeople there, but you can still control a lot of the process, which could be what you already do, but why do it manually? You can just automate it, and then you can actually, can still have some control in the process in terms of what's being sent over to the prospects. And it doesn't take that long, right? Most people, they already know what it's going to say. You just have to sit down and write it out.
Yeah.
Right. I'd parrot that, like what you're saying, Mikey, like the way Chris and I have worked and we build the automations and then like the sequencing is, it's like having a nice little outline, a game plan. As long as we know where we're going, we put it to the latest one we did that I would consider very complex, which was 5 different pipelines for different sales techniques with different nurture, with different confirmation calendars, everything in between. Honestly, once we knew what we were doing and we had like the North Star outlined, less than a day. Like, really, honestly, it doesn't take that long. Nor does it take like a technical genius, because Chris and I did it, and neither one of us are what you would consider virtuosos, except at bankrupting casinos. Yeah, it's as long as you have like that, what your end goal is, or like more importantly, like if you are a solopreneur and you needed to figure out what you need to automate, it's just auditing what you've been doing manually, 3 to 5 times a day or 3 to 5 times a week, and then just replacing that manual like touch point with an automation. and just sticking that in there. So that's where I always think early on in business, like do it yourself, just so you know it works and it has some framework or bearing of a proven factor, and then replace it. Whether or not that's a VA, a team member, or if you can, the most cost effective way, automation. But once you know what you're doing, and once we get the outline together, we can build like just how we do things incredibly fast rate. So it doesn't take 3 months to establish a marketing cadence.
Yeah, I think the last agency that I worked with, it was third party, took 2 to 4 weeks to turn around the email cadence. 2 to 4 weeks turn around the email cadence and 6 weeks to go live with ads. And I don't want to say any specific names because they're fucking awesome. I love them to death. But yeah, our process is way better than anybody else's. I don't know how to say that any other way. I mean, it's plug and play. Once you have the clear piece defined on the front end, it's pretty much plug and play and review. That's why it's not taking so long.
Yeah. Well, we talk about it as like recipes, right? But I mean, you can really look at it as anything, right? If you buy, I put together a shelf that's behind me last week, and how much time I saved by having instructions. Like I knew, okay, I need this screw, I need these tools, I need this, and then I'll just follow these instructions, right? Well, that's, we boil everything down to what we call recipes. And it's, as long as you have the right ingredients and you follow the instructions, not only are you going to save time, but you're going to get a better finished result. If I would have just tried to put together this thing, just trusting my own, just following my own intuition, right? It may have not turned out as good as it did. And it definitely would have probably taken longer. But that's the same way with, again, if you're looking at building, I was talking to someone yesterday who she was trying to build out her funnels for her business. And she was so dead set on, I can do this. I'll figure it out. And I was like, well, you can, right? But do you have to? Do you have to do it by yourself?
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing of, you're like, well, I'm going to go hiking, but I'm also going to put some weights on my ankles. And maybe you're doing it for training purposes, right? Which you want to figure out how to build your own funnels and automate everything yourself so you can know how to do it for other people. But at the same time, it's like, why make it harder on yourself, right? Like if I want to go swimming, I don't need to throw on some weights, right? I can just swim. It's fine, unless you really want to do that. But at the same time, if you do that, you're just increasing your chances of drowning as well. So you're increasing your chances of failure.
We call them rock runs. It's actually a way to prepare for extreme sports. You take a cement block and just run back and forth underwater. But it's okay if you're not into that kind of thing. I'm personally not into working harder in my business. I found that, the more I suffer doesn't make me more successful. Or it does when you're working out. Pain is good, baby. But, not in business. Let's just make the money and keep it moving.
Yeah. There's no reason to be a martyr within your own business just for the sake of saying, what, I put in the sweat equity. But I'd also, to your point, Chris, I'd even say like a lot of people go into it. They're like, I'm going to build this shelf. But in reality, what are they doing? They're going out and trying to chop the tree, trying to send it through a lathe, trying to hit it with a table saw, get the right angles, figure out what screws they want to need. And at the end, they come out with, I don't know, something just completely awful that's not stable. But that's typically what it is. Then you go get your self-help books, or you get on Amazon, or you get a course that kind of gives you the gist. So now you got maybe the tools, or maybe you got some of the pieces of wood that are already prefabricated, but you still need the instructions to piece it all together the right way so it is stable on your shelf with your nice Himalayan bath salts or whatever you have back there don't fall. It's not only having the right ingredients, but then putting that recipe in place that saves you time, saves you energy, and you don't have to go out and become an expert on wood chipping or running a lathe or anything of that craziness. So you can skip all the hard steps and just move into what's going to make you money, and that's doing what you're good at, what you're actually in business to do.
Yeah. My fiance and I, we cooked dinner this past Friday. We made a really cool, like awesome dish. It was really good, but we weren't just trying to guess like what to do. Like, well, I think this will be good. Maybe this. Let's just throw it all together and then see if it works. I mean, we basically found a great recipe, went to the store, just picked up the ingredients. Right? We did not have to go plant something in the back. We didn't have to go like kill our own chicken. Right? We just went to the store and bought it. It's packaged, ready to go. And then we just followed the instructions and made it, So, I think a lot of people end up wasting time just trying to make things harder on themselves. And it doesn't have to be, right? This also comes into like with a lot of our coaching clients, it's that you could spend 180 days trying to do something yourself, or you could hire someone to help you do it in like 60 or 90 days, right? And then you also look at, okay, you could hire someone internally to come work for your company. It's probably going to cost you a lot more than hiring a coach to work with you for 3 to 6 months. So especially if you're a solopreneur, there's no reason for you to even feel like you have to be the expert on everything, because no one is. I had a friend years back who was asking me, if I want to be like a jack of all trades and a master of none. So I think that there's
a master of one.
Yeah, but so there's that's something to think about, and it's most people, you get into business because you're great at solving a problem. You don't have to be great at everything else. There's a reason why in every single company, at least any like big successful company, there's not one person who's trying to do everything, right? There's always separate divisions, and it's because they're smart enough to know what they don't know. And when it comes to asking for help, right, it was hiring a coach or a consultant, bringing someone in, it's probably going to be cheaper in terms of time and money versus trying to figure it all out on your own.
There's no virtue in suffering. M. Scott Peck, I think, is the one who quoted that.
Yeah, and there's, again, at the end of the day, are you more concerned with trying to do it on your own, or are you more concerned with the actual results? And so if it's really the results you want, you really just need to map it out. Okay, does it make sense for me to put all my time towards doing this? Or should I be doing something else? Maybe that's actually working with your clients. Maybe you have someone else help you out with, with something. But either way, that's a pretty big conversation. We should probably talk about this for a long time. So, yeah.
I feel like there was a third thing we want to jump on today, but we really got into these two. And I really think if people didn't get value out of this, they're stupid. That's the only thing that I think. Sorry, everybody didn't get value out of this.
Yeah. No, so we actually did discuss 3 things, right?
Okay. Well, it just blended all together perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good conversation.
I like it.
Which, same way for your sales and marketing, right? You want it to feel natural for your people, not.
Can we agree that Zach needs to wear his satchel from now on during? Yes.
Yeah, he grows out the beard nice.
If the beard is this long, you got to have the satchel. It just
right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, something about the way the hair coiffs forward too. Currently, it looks good. I'm a fan. I met Zach Galifianakis in Tampa once. The dude is funny as hell.
Yeah, I saw Zach. I was at Bonnaroo 10 years ago.
I met him.
Was standing next to him in the crowd at a. I can't remember where it was at. It was somewhere at Bonnaroo. I think it was like a stand-up tent they had there.
Yeah, I just met him in the back room of McDenton's, which is a pretty popular bar in Tampa, with some gigantic bodyguard, and him just being everything that you expect him to be. Talk about like being true to your North Star. That motherfucker is exactly as advertised, and loved every minute of it.
Yeah, man, authenticity is nice.
Be who you are.
Yeah. No, same way and go with your business as well. That's what we're saying. If you're And if you're really good at doing this, like, do it. You know, you don't have to do everything else. Just do that. You know, it's what Nike says, right? If you're good at running, just run.
Just
So Forrest Gump, you know, he's good at running, and he's, you know, he was just running. You know, and he had on the Nikes, you know, he just did it. So there's nothing wrong with just doing it. But yeah, but guys, thanks for joining us. You know, this is for another episode of In the Kitchen. Yeah, if this is your first time meeting us, right? We're over at funnelchef.io. You know, we're hilarious also, but, you know, we also, we work with coaches, consultants, and, you know, agency owners to implement these proven recipes for success into their business. And we do this so that they can attract more clients and generate more revenue and profits, all while avoiding guesswork, just wasting time, right? And so again, this is taking proven systems and processes that's not only worked in our business, but it's also worked for our clients and then even our competitors, right? Because we do secret shop a lot of people, right? And we've just went and boiled these down to simple but specific, detail-oriented recipes that you can implement into your business. So, you know, again, you don't have to be a tech guru, a smooth talking salesperson, or even just a genius in general to have success. Just like a good recipe, as long as you have the right ingredients, you follow this process step by step, you can get great results out. So, you know, if you'd like to learn more about who we are, what we do, why we do it, and then also just find out if what we do even makes sense for you, right? Because it might not, who knows? Just check us out. It's at funnelchef.io or on any social media platform.